Hey gang, welcome to my channel. I'm the Pony 314, and this is the original Cops and Robbers revolver, the Colt Detective Special, the handgun of gumshoes, gangsters, gun moles, G-men, and probably something else that starts with the letter G. So, here are the basics. This is a 6-shot double or single action revolver built on Colt's D-frame. It has fixed sights, it's chambered in .38 special, and barrel length is either 2 or 3 inches. This one obviously is 2-inch. And the Detective Special was introduced in 1927, and it was, in essence, a Colt Police Positive Special with a shorter barrel. The Police Positive Special had been around for 20 years by that point, but it's believed that the inspiration behind the Detective Special was a so-called Fitz Special. Now that was a specially modified police positive developed by Colt employee John H. Fitzgerald sometime in the mid-20s. That would have had a 2-inch barrel. The front half of the trigger guard had been removed. It had a bobbed hammer. That means the hammer spur was removed. And it had a redesigned grip. All this was intended to make the Fitz Special concealable and easy to draw from a pocket without snagging. That was a special run, so there weren't that many of them, but Colt saw potential and came up with a somewhat more conventional version, the Detective Special. There were a number of different series with fairly minor modifications, the first series to the fourth, and changes usually involve the shape of the front sight, length of the ejector rod, and so on. But the moment it was introduced in 1927, Colt had a winner on their hands. I mean, keep in mind, this was the age of Prohibition, the early days of organized crime as we know it, and also the early days of federal agents, plainclothes police, and so on. In other words, those who wanted to carry without anybody knowing. So it may have been called the Detective Special, but it saw a lot of use on both sides of the law. A lot of gangsters wound up in the morgue because of this, put there by both lawmen and other gangsters. It was lightweight, it was easy to conceal, and that .38 special round tended to hit hard enough to get the job done. Its frequent use in early gangster movies cemented it in the American mindset. The old game Cops and Robbers was still a thing when I was a kid, and when we pointed our fingers at each other and went bang, this is probably the gun we were thinking of. And it wasn't just plainclothes police that carried this on the right side of the law, but uniformed police certainly saw its value as a backup and as an off-duty weapon. And of course, civilians looking to protect themselves could keep this on the nightstand, the sock drawer, the glove compartment, or an inside coat pocket. So, the Colt Detective Special was, for the longest time, the ultimate carry revolver. And believe me, a lot of people, good, bad, and in between, certainly did carry it, and did so for quite a long time. I mean, for decades, nothing really came along that offered something better for those who favored this. Its first real competition came in the form of the Smith & Wesson J-frame revolver, like the Chief Special or the Model 36 if you prefer, and that's another story. But even when there were alternatives offered, the Detective Special was still a big seller for Colt. And as a side note, in 1950, Colt introduced a lightweight aluminum frame version called the Colt Cobra, also popular with plainclothes police and criminals. In fact, it was a Colt Cobra that Jack Ruby used to kill Lee Harvey Oswald right there on live TV in 1963. So, I think we should pause it there so we can take a trip out to the range with the Colt Detective Special and do a little shooting. We're out here at the Municipal Shooting Range in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico with the Colt Detective Special. You see our bleeding zombie clown down there a few yards, and we're going to do our first shoot, single action. So, let's have some fun. We'll always associate the Colt Detective Special with the age of fedoras, trench coats, and pencil-thin mustaches, but it outlived that time period by quite a while. Some police are still carrying these in one form or another, even into the 90s. But as time wore on, Smith & Wesson stub-nose revolvers began to gain ground, and generally, time began to pass it by, until low sales caused Colt to cease production in 1986. During that time, Colt had long since lost its dominance in the American revolver market, and they filed for bankruptcy in 1992, I think. But it did have a brief final production run from that year until 1996. So, for the Colt Detective Special, that's an almost 70-year run. And you know what? That's nothing to sneer at. And about 400,000 of these were made. At least that's the estimate. No one seems to know the exact number. But regardless, it's a classic and an icon by any measure. This one here, by the way, is a second model, and it was made in 1957. And take a look at that thing. It's obvious she's been around the block, but she still shoots like she's brand new. And on the subject of shooting, I think it's time to do a little bit more, because let's face it, that's the fun part. But first, if you want to help keep this channel going, feel free to support us on Patreon. There's a link in the description. But now, let's get back to the range. We're now going to do our second shoot with the lovely Colt Detective Special, and this time we're going to be going double action. So, let's hit it. So that was our episode on the Colt Detective Special. Thank you for watching. Do hope you enjoyed it. And if you like our subject matter on this channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I'm the Pony 314, and I will see you at the range.